Hello, this is Hamlet from the Guild Elitist Jerks and the server Melganus narrating a gold challenge mode run of Stormstout Brewery. This is widely regarded as the most difficult challenge mode. It has a very ungenerous 12-minute timer that requires a lot of aggressive tactics just to have a route that allows you to get the gold time. A lot of things are going to happen as soon as we start. There are 5 large Hosen brawlers in the first 2 rooms. Each is being buffed by a yellow spirit that's up on the top ledge. Ranged DPS have to find the spirit that's buffing each Hosen and hit it with any attack. That will remove all of the Hosen special abilities and reduce their HP by over 50%. Our tank got threat on all of them as we ran by, and then the DPS clumped them and is now snaring and kiting them while doing damage to them, carefully using the habanero brews in the 3rd room. Meanwhile, he and I have the fun project of rounding up the 40 Hosen required to trigger the first boss fight. Along with the ones he's pulled so far in the zone, it's all of the ones in roughly the first half of this room. I hug the tank as closely as I can while being careful to dodge barrels, like right here. At the beginning, I occasionally have aggro from small Hosen, so I keep Barkskin or Icebound Fortitude up and stay very close to the tank. Once he has firm threat on all of them, I move to the center of the room while he continues to assemble a tight kiting pack. Once they're together, he just kites in a circle while we DPS them. Their capacitor totem unfortunately misses. I put down a vortex which keeps him in place. Here's a fun consumable, a G91 Land Shark. It's an uncapped AoE, so hitting 40 targets does about 1.6 million damage. Here's a Gorfien's Grasp, which continues to allow smooth AoE. People can get on barrels and ride them into the pack. It actually does quite a lot of damage. You just have to be careful that your tank is kiting in a circle, and if you hit the pack in the back with a barrel, you will knock them into the tank. It's imperative that you hit them with barrels from an intelligent direction, but it adds quite a lot of damage if you do. That whole trash sequence is one of the hardest things you'll do in challenge mode, but there just didn't seem to be time to do it any other way in this zone. The boss himself is comparatively easier. Everyone, myself included, tries to ride barrels into him as often as possible. They not only do damage to him, but they add a debuff. Things to know about barrels are that if you're riding one and you run into an unmanned barrel, it will explode and hit you. If you ride one into the boss, the explosion will not damage friendlies. Everyone in the group does have to be careful around barrels. You can die suddenly if you hit 2 of them, but as long as you're spending most of your time on barrels every time you start spawning them, you're pretty safe. There's not that much damage going out here. I'm spending most of my time DPSing and riding barrels. Once he's down to 30% and going bananas for the 3rd time, the tank is taking a little more damage, so you have to watch him. As long as the tank safely aims ground pound into the door and nobody gets blown up by barrels, this fight should be quite safe though. The most important thing you can do to end it more quickly is hit him with as many barrels as you can. We don't have Bloodlust on him. We used it on the large AoE pack, and also we wanted to use it no later than about a minute into the zone, which ensures that it comes back up with about a minute left so you can use it on the final boss, which is completely essential. As the fight comes to an end, I move over towards the exit to be ready for the group to meet up and run all the way down the entire Vermin Gauntlet together. I sneak in whatever few seconds of drinking I can before people catch up. If you need to have your group wait for a drink, do so, but ideally you can make it from the beginning of the zone all the way through Hoptalis where you'll have a free chance to drink. In this hallway, I stampede the group and then simply try to stick with the tank while healing him with instants as often as I can. My goal is basically to stay inside a spinning crane kick circle at all times while keeping hots up. The group wants to stay as tightly clumped as you can manage while running through this because hoppers will activate whenever someone gets near them. They'll start to hop up and down for a few seconds and then explode. You want to try to move continuously with all the explosions behind the group. Once we get here, the tank is going to go to the back with all the clumped hopplings and boppers. The group has to watch the location of all hoppers as you're arriving on this platform. I thought I was a safe distance from those 2, but it turns out I wasn't. Fortunately, you can barely survive that, but during the boss fight, it would probably get you killed. Having your nameplate mod emphasize hoppers would be a very good idea. Once the platform is safe, your goal is to focus fire one bopper, mark it and have the group kill it, then have someone pick up the hammer and use it on the rest of the group. That'll help you quickly kill all the boppers that we accumulated in the hallway running in here, which not only summons Hoptalis more quickly, but also gets you a nice lot of hammers to start that fight with. During the Hoptalis fight itself, the most dangerous things are hoppers. The goal will be to always have hammers ready each time a wave of vermin spawns, and people ready to watch specifically for the hoppers that jump down and hit them right away. Then you can finish off the boppers afterwards and pick up the hammers again to use on the next wave. Each hammer you pick up only has 1 charge, so you have to be careful not to waste them. It lasts for 60 seconds after you pick it up. Whirlwind does quite a lot of damage in challenge mode. It can kill you in a couple ticks, but it's still pretty easy to avoid. I think the tank can also use taunts to help pull him in a safe direction. Once that's over, we get ready for the next vermin spawn and carrot breath. We have people waiting under the ledge ready with hammers, but they're not going to use them right now while just the hoplings and boppers are hopping out. The first thing to do is watch for this carrot breath, see which way it's spinning and make sure you go around it. Right here, 5 hoppers are about to jump down. In this case, we have a DK, so we Gorfiends grasp them and we hit them all with one hammer, and they explode harmlessly up in the air. There I took a hit from carrot breath. It's actually pretty harmless if it's the only thing you're getting hit by. The thing to watch for in this fight is that if you get stunned by a hopper explosion, you can then get killed immediately by being chain stunned by other hopper explosions or by having the carrot breath hit you. That time we took out the hoppers pretty cleanly, so people are just careful for whirlwind while we finish off the boppers and pick up our next round of hammers. The goal is going to be to finish off the fight within 2 rounds of vermin spawn. Here's the next one coming now. Carrot breath again is the first thing while the hoplings come out. Make sure we go in a safe direction. We don't have Gorfiends this time, so 2 different people are going to have to use hammers. Here are the 5 hoppers jumping down. There's the hammer. Now you can see there's one in the middle that was missed. It's very hard to see amidst the huge mass of vermin running around, and in fact I run into it here. Fortunately, I have Icebound Fortitude, which gets me out of the stun and away from any other explosions that might be happening. Once again here, people are carefully finishing off boppers while Whirlwind is starting up. Just be careful to pick up the hammers quickly. I think they despawn after being on the ground for a few seconds. Ideally, though, we're going to finish off the boss this time before another round of vermin spawns. Right after killing the boss is one of the only times to drink without holding up the group in any way, while you wait for a vermin named Nibbler to come along with a wheelbarrow and make off with the giant carrot. The only other time I'm going to get to is between the trash waves and the final boss sequence, so I take my chance to amber here and the group can run down and safely start the next trash mob while I catch up. This is a zone where you really don't want to make your group stop unnecessarily. Fortunately, this lone bloated brew elemental is quite an easy trash mob, and we also have to stay here until we kill it because we are going to sneak past mobs in the next room. Just make sure you position carefully to avoid hitting each other with bloat and DPS it down as fast as you can. While we were fighting him, I opened the door. Bloat will drop off of everyone as soon as you finish combat with this mob, so you can safely run up to the door the moment that happens. Once everyone's clumped there, look inside the room and see where the patrol of 5 mobs inside the room is so you can get ready to run past it safely. This is the only bit of patrol RNG in this zone, fortunately. Ours wasn't bad here. They were just going past us, so we can sneak by them on the left. Be careful not to get hit by the streams of brew in this room. They will put you in combat with those 5 yeasty elementals. As soon as you get here, open the door right away and head up the ramp to the final room. The 3 types of elementals in the final sequence are always bloated, yeasty, and sudsy, and the 3 abilities that Yanzu always has are bloat, summon yeasty elemental, and wall of suds. The main challenge in fighting Yanzu is going to be that the yeasty elementals he spawns have too much HP to kill effectively, so you have to be able to burst the boss down before he starts getting any ticks of healing from them, or else his HP is simply going to start going up instead of down, and you're never going to win the encounter. Here we pulled the last trash mobs that were outside the sudsy elementals into the room when we started the bloated elementals that were part of the final boss sequence. It becomes a pretty high damage pack. In particular, sudsy elementals leave pretty high damage pools on the ground that both the tank and the melee have to watch out for. Once these are all down, we're going to have a few seconds break before the 9 yeasty elementals spawn, and then another few seconds before the 4 sudsy elementals spawn, and then during the final break before Yanzu, I'm going to respec a balance. This was the only place in any of the 9 challenge modes where I went balance in my first run through getting golds. There are definitely a lot of other places where I can try to work that in more aggressively in order to improve zone times, but this was the only boss where you might expect to swap to 4 DPS just to have a consistent plan for killing the encounter and finishing the zone. As the bloated brew elementals die, we're all going to move behind this pillar to LOS the pack of 9 yeasty elementals that spawn. It's very important to get them clumped, and if you start damaging them while they're out there in the middle of the room, they'll never move again. They're just going to keep channeling heals on each other. You want to make sure they come over here and are clumped as tightly as possible right where you want them before you start damaging them, because as soon as you start, then some of the other mobs are going to stop moving and start healing the ones you've hit. Use all your AoE stuns on this pack as well as anything else that'll interrupt them from channeling in any way. You just want to be able to DPS them continuously while limiting the amount of time that they can spend healing each other. I honestly don't know whether trying to stand in the middle of the clump of them accomplishes anything as far as trying to block their beams. If there's one that doesn't quite make it in, like the one behind the post like that, just make sure someone is on it. I'm DPSing as much as I can since there isn't very much to heal and we want to kill this pack as quickly as possible. I could have considered using Heart of the Wild Hurricane all the way through this pack considering how long it is, but I'd already planned to use Heart of the Wild for the final pack of 4 sudsy elementals since we're using our Army of the Dead there and I know I can pretty safely DPS through the entire thing. For a benchmark here, we came into the final room with over 4.5 minutes left. We're down to under 2.5 now, and we still have to do the final trash pull and the boss. It's very, very tight. This is the only zone at which we repeatedly missed our gold time, even cleanly executing what wound up being our final strategy, and had to continue trying it until everything went well and we barely made it in under the requirement. At all the other zones, we wound up developing a plan for the whole run that had some leeway built in, and were able to get our gold the first time we executed the whole thing without any major failures. You need to have about a minute left for Yanzu, and in fact that's about all the time you can spend on him. You can kill him in a minute 10 or a minute 20, but then it gets increasingly likely that he's going to start healing up and then your run is over. So including a few seconds for your healer to respec, killing this pack with a minute 30 should be safe, killing it with a minute 10 might be doable, but will be close. As we finish this pack, remember the only dangerous thing they do are the suds on the ground. I'm standing on the side of the room where I want to be to start the Yanzu encounter, because I'm going to spend the entire time in between the pulls respecking while the group waits for me. Other people can take 5 or so seconds to move if they need to. I respec, change gear, shift to Moonkin form, and Astral Communion while the tank runs in to start the encounter. Make sure you have your routine practiced. Aside from everybody doing very good 1-minute burst DPS, the only challenge at this fight are making sure that the beams from the yeasty elementals he spawns are properly intercepted so they don't heal him. Since we didn't use invisibility potions in this zone, you can use a DPS potion here. Remember, there's no point pre-potting since the fight's only a minute long, just use it wherever you get the most damage value out of it. The first 2 yeasty elementals always spawn in the locations you see here, and then they proceed counterclockwise from there. One person in melee can block 2 adjacent beams. The only variance is that different people get bloats. You just have to make sure you always move carefully to not hit each other. The only other difficulty is that if someone jumps to avoid a wall of suds, that can cause the beam they're blocking to slip past for 1 or 2 seconds, which is highly unideal. Cooldowns such as Anti-Magic Shell can be used to stay in for 1 wall of suds and make sure that your beam stays blocked. The 5th and 6th elemental spawn 60 seconds into the fight. You should be ready to intercept them while you finish off the boss. You can last a few seconds longer than that as long as the group carefully handles 6 beams while you finish the fight. And there we are. That one was quite a rush. Made it with 14 seconds to spare on a run where everything went